Right guys, my name's Lee Connor and welcome to my garage. This is my Lotus Elise drag car effectively now, and this is effectively what I've been up to keep myself going during this coronavirus. Obviously anyone out there watching who's got themselves in a position where it's like me, they're out of work, I'm sure we'll be okay and we'll pull through it. It's just a case of saving the pennies at the moment, and as everyone keeps saying, stay indoors really. The more we stay indoors, the less we contact each other, the quicker it's over, the quicker we can all go back to work. So this, my story and everyone in the car story has been through many ups and downs over the years. A few people know me from circuit stuff, a few people know me from engine building, and a few people know me from just generally messing around with this in a way that I shouldn't really. A Lotus is not something that you first think of when you think of a drag car. If you're any rear-wheel drive, you would think of something V8 or at least something with the engine at the front. So choosing a mid-engine car on the surface isn't the greatest idea, but up to a certain level, a mid-engine car can be very, very quick. What does make it hard is obviously with a lot of people, not many people are such doing this. Information is quite sparse and where to go, the best way to set the car up, etc. The nice thing is, and this is a shout out to Nathan and Chris, who both got mid-engined rear-wheel drive cars. Both of them have been very, very kind to me, spending time and either through the internet or Facebook or through face-to-face to talk to me, offer me advice, and generally steer me in a direction because I don't have the experience in it at all. So a quick rundown on the car. The way I've designed this car was lightweight, almost a Lotus ethos, but in a different application. Is the engine is a Rover K series engine, which most people I think can't make any power at all, and there is a limitation on what power they can make. So if you can't make 1 billion horsepower, the way you do it is power to weight. So this chassis we started with a completely bare new chassis, and I built everything from scratch. Every single part that went on the car, I looked at it first and go, okay, do I need it? Yes or no? Yes, I do. Okay, does it need to be made of that material? Yes or no? Can we look at titanium? Can we look at aluminium? If it needs to be made from, for example, steel, does it need to be that big? Does the bolt need to be that thick to do its job? Or if it's a bracket, does the bracket need to be that big, or does it just need to cover from one hole to the other? Can you trim there? So with all the work that we've done on it, we've got it down to about 600, with the drag tyres on, we've got it down to about 640 kilo, which for a Lotus Elise sounds fairly light, but when you think about that we've got a full turbo engine, very large turbo, thick wall manifold, giant intercooler, we've got oil accumulator onto full roll cage. There's quite a lot of weight extra onto it that if you were building a road car or something like that, you wouldn't need. There's probably circa 50 to 80 kilo of weight that doesn't need to be there really. If you were, like you say, if you're just building a normal car. So to get it down to that weight, I'm pretty happy with. There are little areas that we can save weight on, and it's either a cost or a time thing, or just coming up with new ideas that will probably shave a bit off. As you can see by myself, there's obviously a fair bit to shave here, and I've made a start on that. So we're about a third of the way there on that. So yeah, that's kind of the initial start of what the car is. What I'll do is obviously I'll walk you around and kind of show you what I've done, what I haven't done, and then hopefully I'll include some pictures, and I think Lucas got a couple of videos and stuff to put in to kind of give you an idea what it's like. Okay, so to give you a bit of a walk around the car, it's all fiberglass. There's pretty much no steel on the car at all. Anything that can obviously be replaced with fiberglass has been. I'll give you a shot of the engine bay. Now yes, that is
Rover K series. Most people would go Honda, but you know, the little Metro engine does pretty good. It's actually the most powerful Rover K series in the world. I'm pretty much the only person who really pushes them, whether that's through stupidity or you know, just what I wanted to do. I don't think I could ever really get a name for myself in building Honda K series engines, for example, but I feel like I've got my own little niche when it comes to Rover ones. So pretty much the entire engine's been gone through top to bottom. There's quite a lot of my own design work in there. So for example, the cams I designed myself and had them made by Newman for me. They're a 12.5mm lift, which is actually the biggest lift you can get on the actual castings that come from them. We have quite large inlet and exhaust valves, so 2mm oversized exhaust valve, which is a new thing. Nobody's really ever done that before on these. Generally, because most people would run them naturally aspirated, and generally wouldn't need to flow that much out the back end. But obviously, with myself, I do. 2.5mm inlet valves. All solid followers now, though we did spin the factory followers to 8,500 revs with no issues at all. This engine now revs to 9.1. We can rev it a lot higher, but the issue we have is the factory oil pump. After 8,000, it's just generally not that happy, so you just have to kind of limit yourself when you're going up to that sort of point. Ductile Westwood liners, my own design forged pistons from Amiga, and those are only available through myself. We've used Genvi throttle bodies, individual throttle bodies, but effectively we're just running the bare castings, so there's nothing inside them at all. And then we've gone for a Airtech RS500 sort of Swedish style dual inlet plenum. We do that for better air distribution through each cylinder, and we have quite a large plenum spacer again to help distribute when it does enter, and again keep it happy at high RPM. We are using Snake Eater 1500cc injectors. Some people think, oh, you must run ID 2000s or Siemens, but generally these have been very good, very cost effective. You can get them in two different lengths, and even at that size, the car will start up happily and run on normal gasoline without a problem at all. Obviously the large thing on it at the moment is the turbo. Now that is a custom one designed from a whole set. And it's a 6767 if you wanted to talk in American speak. That's with a 16cm twin scroll housing. Some people obviously think that you can't spool a turbo that big on a little engine like this, but we can make 24 psi by 5,000, and that's down to twin scroll benefits. To help with the oil control, we have an oil accumulator down there. It's a 3-quart or 3 litre, depending on which country you're from. And again, that doesn't help with oil pressure throughout the RPM, but generally on the launch, and if you do take the car back to circuit work, then it's very good for that. It's running a standard crank. I've never had any problems with cranks at all. Again, fit and forget. And the gearbox, we have some slightly shorter ratios this year, just to try and there's no point in being geared to 170 mile an hour and forth, because I just don't think the car would get there. It may do, but I'd rather shorten the gears and maximise what we can from the chassis, from the combination itself. The big change this year is we had new drive shafts made by DJM Race Engineering. Those are a 108mm CV and 28 spline shafts, so obviously much bigger, because we were snapping shafts for fun literally on the launch, on the lowest power, the lowest RPM we could launch. We'd either drive off the line slowly or we'd snap a shaft. So they've been working very well. Obviously I can have a picture of me popping a wheelie at this point to say no issues at all. We also changed to a spool diff, because we did find the Quafe ATB was fighting itself effectively. When you put a lot of power through it, it would basically do a reverse open diff, so it would send the power to the wheel that's got the most traction, overpower that one, and then go back to the other one, overpower that one, and it just got itself confused, and it made it pretty shocking to drive, to be fair. The hope this year was to get into the 9s. That's the target for the car. and this year we've only done one event at Run What You Brung. I decided to do that one because I didn't know what was going to happen long term in terms of whether the Santa Pod would shut, which it unfortunately has. So the hope was, I thought if I can get a 10 there, that's a start. And I knew it would run a 10 on wastegate pressure. I just needed to get some practice in. One thing that's come in handy this year is the car runs a completely flat floor, which is generally what happens with Lotuses from factory, but I made a new one which didn't have any of the vents or any of the cutouts, and you can see the 2 strips of aluminium there, effectively creating a cage so that if something were to happen and the engine were to let go when I pushed it, so for example if door slammers was happening, then you don't want to oil down the lane, you don't want to cause a load of hassle and just make it unfair for everyone else. You're having a bad day, you really don't want the track and yourself to have a bad day at the same time. Now actually that did come into handy quite well, because the moment what you brung, we actually had the drive shaft pop out slightly from the gearbox. So it was just dripping slightly, which we didn't know, and the containment area held it quite well, so that when we got back, we noticed there was a drip. In the evening when we got back, we found the drip, and that saved me dripping all the way down the track. It meant that I could continue the rest of the day, and also just saved a potential issue for the cleanup crew and for anyone behind me, because again, it's not fair on them.